everyone. Hi, my name is Madhurata and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am back with another video which talks about cybersecurity audits, governance, risk compliance team, and what audit team does. So stay tuned for that. But before that, let me tell you all about who I am in my professional journey, in my career journey. So obviously you know that my name is Madhumita Chatterjee. I started my journey as a computer science engineer. I did my bachelor's in computer engineering, and right after that I got a job as a software developer. When I was working as a software developer, I had the knack and interest of coding applications in a secure way. And that time, my project manager took a spot on that and guided me that why should I not pursue my masters in this field. So from that time I took the advice from my project manager and I went ahead and I completed my masters in cybersecurity, and after that I got placed from the college itself in the company Ernst and Young. It's a big four firm. The company mainly focuses on conducting various kind of cybersecurity audits. Now there are tons and tons of cybersecurity audits. In when I was in that organization, I was working on conducting various regulatory audits. So usually RBI government sends regular circulars in a quarterly basis. So my job was to understand these circulars and help my clients be compliant with the RBI regulatory circulars, the kind of configurations the RBI wanted to make the bank secure. I extensively worked in banks, national banks, international banks, and also I got a chance to work in telecom industries and the fashion industry. So I also helped many fashion organizations. For example, Lakme, and so on, telecommunications companies like Jio, Airtel to be regulatory compliant. And in my current organization, I'm working as a compliance risk manager, and my job over here is to lead the entire audit team. We make sure whatever audits are planned for the year, we achieve full compliance status of it, and we can at the end of the day present the dashboards, the key performing indicators of the audit, how nicely we have increased our security posture, what improvements we have done, and what areas of revisions or other future works can be planned in the organization. All of that we present to the dashboard, with the dashboard to the CISO and CTO. So I directly report to CISO. So we have quarterly meetings and monthly meetings where we explain point to point basis what kind of security risk is happening in the organization, what kind of audit will the auditors expect, and what kind of evidences we have to frame so that the auditors can check it, spend very minimum time, and give us a go ahead. So that's what I do, and that's exactly why I am here to explain you all about cybersecurity audits, governance, risk, and compliance. So come with me. Hello, mic testing. Okay, so now my mic is working, everything is working. So let me get through you about what is audit and what does the audit team does. I have certain printouts in my line of work. I can't really show what the current organization does or how the current organization conducts its audit, but I'm going to just share the basic of the audits that happens in every single organization. So every audit is divided in, if you see from a bird's eye view, three parts. Okay, the first is the initial requirement list of the audit. Now, there are, as I already informed you, there are various kinds of audits. The most common audits are ISO audit. ISO audit is an organization audit which ensures that the organization is having basic information security in place and can be trusted. It's a basic audit, not very strict audit. Second is SOC 2 audit. Now, what is the number 2? That will itself take another video because that's a lot to explain. But for now, I'm just going to give you an example. There is something known as SOC 1 audit and there is something known as SOC 2 audit. Let's start with the full form of SOC. SOC is Security Operations Controls. Okay, this is the full form of SOC. Now, SOC 1 indicates the financial health of the organization. SOC 2 indicates the IT systems and the network systems health of the organization. I do not do SOC 1. I'm not someone who is a chartered accountant. I am someone who is responsible for cybersecurity of IT system, that is information technology systems. And hence, I conduct SOC 2 audits. Okay, I hope that difference is clear. So that is the second type of audit. And the third type of very famous audit is known as PCI-DSS audit. Too long. Let me break it down to you. Payment Card Industry Data Standard Security Audit. In this audit, the main aim is to see whether the credit card data of the customer is secured or not. Can you imagine, for just this thing, such a big audit happens? And let me tell you all, PCI audit is a compulsory audit. It's non-negotiable. PCI and SOC 2 audit, since the firm which I'm working is a US firm, it's a mandated audit where any organization who has storing customer data, doing credit card processing or taking payment in any way form has to be compliant with PCI audit. Otherwise, hear this out, they cannot operate, they cannot run their business, they cannot sell anything, they cannot accept money. So these audits are so important. Okay, so yeah, so various audits happen and all of that happens. So now an audit is divided into three major parts. First is the requirement list. Now, payment card industry audits will have their own requirement list. Obviously, it will be related to most of the payment card where the card data is stored. ISO will be a little more organization level, whether in organization information security is being carried out or not. And SOC 2 system operations control audits are related to more of system security and how things are happening in a day-to-day basis. Every auditor comes with their own requirement list. So the auditor will reach the organization. Let's say you have a food company business. Let's say you have business which is a marketplace. Marketplace examples are Amazon, Myntra, and so on. You sell something, okay? And the auditors are coming to your organization. The auditors will come with a requirement list. That's the first phase of audit. And the second phase is going to be the team of the company is going to gather those evidences and submit those evidences to the auditors. And the last phase is auditors conduct their entire review and release their report saying compliant or non-compliant. Okay, these are the easy terms. I feel this anybody knows. Now, the main part that I wanted to sort of share with you all, how is the requirement list distributed? No matter any audit happens in the world, if you run a company and if I'm working in a company, we need to have certain things fixed because every audit plays in these areas. And if we have these fixed, I as a company or any startup or anything, that company will be safeguarded from any kind of auditors coming. Since I am an auditor, so I can guarantee you that if these 18 fields are properly managed. Now, yeah, there are not 18, there are 19 fields. So let me tell you. Let me give you from the start. The first we have audit and assurance. Simple thing, audit and insurance. This control or this field has means that every year your company should get audited. You know, you should not skip any year, okay, for whatever reason. Second is application security. I don't even have to tell you, whatever application your company is building, that needs to be secured. Third is business continuity and disaster recovery, self explanatory. Then we have change control, then data center and facility center. Okay, so let me, I'm going to go deep dive into these topics. So do not get bored out. And then I have data management, encryption and key management, endpoint management, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's start with the most difficult thing. I feel the most difficult control is identity and access management. Identity and access management, this control is kind of really huge because it has many data that needs to be given on to the auditor. Let me explain you. Now, in identity and access management, the first data that an auditor needs is for remote access and login and multi-factor organization. We need to understand that every organization, whenever they are making sure that any employee access to their company needs to be authenticated. Now, how do they do that? Obviously, there are going to be passwords, but passwords are never enough. So MFA is also there. Then there is something known as remote access failed logouts lockout. What does that mean? If any employee of the company is trying to log in remotely, and if he is not able to do that, so what happens? Okay, he will get locked out. And after he gets locked out, what the IT team of the company does to recover his account? So that entire procedure. So yeah, then you have centralized password policies and configuration settings, internal authentication, and so forth and so on. Certain things I wanted to share was this. If you can see this, these are PCI 12 requirements. Very important. Every organization should build and maintain a secure network and systems. They should apply secure configuration to all system components. They should protect stored account data. Then the requirement of PCI is that card holder data should be protected and there has to be strong cryptography during transmission. And then protect all systems and network from malicious software. Develop and maintain secure system software. Restrict access of system components and cardholder data by business need to know. Identity users and authenticate access to system component, log monitoring, and support and information security. One of the most gray areas that auditors love to see are endpoint security. What they actually do is they see what kind of workstations an employee is using, because that's the first point of breach that can happen. Okay, so most of the organizations give a Windows laptop, and some of the organization gives Mac laptop, and some organization give both the laptops, right? But let's say there is a situation where you are in an organization where there is only Mac laptops. Okay, currently I'm working on that, so I would be able to explain you a lot better for Mac laptops. Now, there was a case where people said that, what, like we use Mac laptops, so it's already secured. Wrong. I am an auditor and I will not accept that as an answer. Even if Mac laptops have been proven to provide good security, but still an endpoint device needs to be secured by some endpoint security solutions, antivirus, and so forth. So there is a very, very good product in the market which is known as JAMF Protect. So JAMF Protect is a solution, endpoint solution for Mac operating systems. It protects the laptop from viruses and so forth and so on, and it's an antivirus solution as well, and it also syncs passwords onto the JAMF portal, so also your authentication is validated through that. And yeah, so it's an endpoint security solution. So that's not the point. The point is, how do I prove it to the auditors? We have to show JAMF protects configuration files. We have to show the logs of the users that are logging into the MacBook and so forth and so on. So this is how you collect the evidences for endpoint security. Another example I want to share about the user authentication. So I feel in Microsoft Windows, people use the traditional way of authenticating a user, that could be Active Directory, and there could be other techniques. But in Mac, there is something known as Okta Authenticator application. Now, Okta Authenticator application, what it does, it's a one-time authenticator application which has all the company apps in it. So any employees who wants to browse through or use company applications has to go verify through Okta. Okay, so Okta is going to store your passwords and let you in. Now the thing is, in security, you should know, if you just using passwords, that's never going to be enough. You need to have multi-factor authentication. So Okta is tied up with another application known as Duo Security app, which is a second factor authenticator app. So after password, you also need to give OTP. Now, there are various ways to give OTP. There could be hash keys, or you might know there is another mechanism, that is you get a no push notification on your mobile phone and you kind of approve it on your mobile phone, and that's how your second factor authentication works. So that's what Duo application does that. Now the Duo application, you need to give configuration screenshots that you have configured Okta as your authenticator application and Duo as your second factor authentication application, and some user logs, some examples of existing employees, and that's how you prove your audit point. If you can see on your screen, you can see this is the Okta authentication application, and here this is the multi-factor authentication tab, and you can see the Duo security option has been enabled. PCI password has many laws. PCI has a strict rule on how password complexity needs to be set. So PCI Audit Council will give us the circular stating that the password should have these characteristics. But I'm showing a screenshot of Okta application which puts this PCI policy in place. If you can see, every password should be at least of 16 characters, and the password should have a lowercase letter, uppercase letter, numbers from 0 to 9, some symbols. It should not contain the username in the password. It should not contain first or last name. And this Okta application even restricts use of common password. One example is COVID. Okay, another example I wanted to explain you was file integrity monitoring alert example. So There are many tools. This screenshot that you can see is of Viz tool. Viz also monitors file integrity monitoring. File integrity monitoring main aim is to understand whether a file has been compromised, whether the file has been affected by malware or not. If you can see this example, threat was created and before legacy was scoped to the issue, a successful webhook action was automatically triggered, a successful tie-ins action was automatically triggered, and the threat was restricted automatically. That might look a little too much, but the point being, file integrity monitoring tools work that way. There are crores and crores of false positives that comes into file monitoring tool. So a good security engineer's job is to create rules who will find these false positive and automatically trigger a command to resolve them so that the real engineer can work on genuine security issues and can take action to it. So guys, that's all for this video. I really hope you find this video a little insightful, and please do comment down below if you want to know more about audit cybersecurity. I'm going to be there to help you all. Till that time, take care and I will see you next time. Bye bye.